Thank you everyone for coming on this Saturday afternoon. It's lovely to have you all here. Hello to the new faces and to everyone who comes usually. People we haven't seen for a very long time, but I'm very happy to see you again. So today's talk is money can make you happy, agree or disagree. I've heard things that, there's something very interesting that is going to be shared today, which I'm not aware of, but I've heard rumours. So we're all in the same boat. I just want to start off by saying, well, by introducing our speaker, Booth Brahman Prabhu. I think a lot of you know him. Well, a lot of us know him as BBD.
It's easy.
So BBD is basically, he's world famous. He gives talks in England, in Europe, in America, in India, in Canada, you name it, he's been there and there's demand for him. So I think we're really, really fortunate that every Saturday somehow we manage to get a bit of his time. Actually quite a bit.
Too much of my time.
So we're really fortunate to have him here, and he's got just years and years and lifetimes of wisdom, I think, to share with us. And I think what's really special about what he shares is it's all applicable. So whatever we hear today is something we can take away and use in our lives, and that's where I think specialty about everything he shares. So I'm not going to carry on waffling, although I like talking about it. But yeah, let's give him a round of applause.
So thank you to all of you for coming. Thank you to Kundalata for the warm introduction. So I think I recognise quite a few of you. It's nice to see some new faces as well. It'll be good to get to know you guys. Today we have an interesting topic, an interesting discussion we're going to have. What we want to share today is a few different angles on this whole topic of wealth, money. We want to look at where it comes from. We're going to do a little something on how it can make us feel. We're going to share with you some interesting insights in terms of the whole world of work. Another angle on what motivates us, especially in terms of the kind of work that we do or the kind of jobs that we're looking to do as well in the future. And most of all, we want to share a special perspective on this topic. So this is not just another seminar, another talk, it's not just another speculation or another group of opinions. But one of the major things about this project, this youth group, or this young people's group, which is Launchpad, is we're trying to really share or inject some Eastern wisdom into modern living, okay? So we want to give you a few new perspectives to think about, even in terms of where wealth comes from. I remember reading or listening to something online, and it was talking about wealth creation, how money is made and so on, and we want to give you like an underlying perspective, because the value of the knowledge that we're sharing, being ancient Vedic knowledge, is it can give a deeper, more penetrating insight into practically every area of life, okay? It's going to be an interactive session. We're going to be sharing our ideas, we're going to be learning from each other, and we'll be hopefully drawing some higher conclusions and getting some deeper understanding about this really interesting topic, which is about money. Because for many people, money really makes the world go round, right? For many people, it is like the honey, it's the thing that really motivates them. And in one sense, practically all you have to do is be wealthy, and immediately, in many people's eyes, you have some prestige, you have some status, some position. I thought it could be an interesting icebreaker to do a couple of things, okay? And we will do those things. I think what we can do before we even get into the icebreaker is I'm going to ask everyone just to introduce themselves so that the group knows who you are, and just one thing that, what motivated you to come today, okay? So briefly, just to the group, hi, my name is so-and-so. Say, I decided to come to the presentation because of whatever reasons. Is that okay? We'll do that briefly, then I'm going to get you to do a little icebreaker exercise, and we'll just take it from there. If that's okay? Okay, great stuff. We'll start on this side.
Hi, my name's Kavi. I wanted to come along because I was interested in the title.
I'm Shiv. I wanted to come along because last week was a big eye-opener. There were seminars and just wanted to see if you beat that.
Oh, okay. I'm under pressure now. Okay.
I'm Gokoji, and well, I just come every Saturday. It's all.
I'm Jess, and yeah, same. I'm every Saturday, and I like to there.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Emma, and my brother will be on today, so they're quite good and enlightening.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm Anthony and I invited her, so I had to come along also.
Cool. We're going to have to edit that bit out.
For the purpose of marketing.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Nico. A friend recommended coming, and it's my first time here.
Okay, cool. Nice to meet you, Nico. Yes.
I'm Lee, and I like coming because it's very stimulating, and I like meeting new people.
Thank you.
I'm Milata, and I came to introduce people.
And take pictures. For the camera, yes.
My name is Pantali. I came because I like being with like-minded people and find the discussions really deep and interesting.
Interesting. Thank you.
I'm Christina, I thought it would be interesting.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack. I come every week as well, like Gopaji, but I haven't been here in a while.
Okay, it's good to see Jack again. Cool. Thanks for coming.
Hello everyone, I'm Max, and I came here because Katya suggested me, and I'm always curious to find out what can happen here.
Okay, wonderful. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. Yes.
I'm Kay. I came because I never find a good enough reason not to come. So.
It's good. It's good answer.
I'm Katya, and as I just said, I come on a Saturday and find it good. So.
Nice to meet you again, Katya.
I'm Sawa. I come mostly every week, and I came because I was looking forward to the interactive session.
So we're going to leave you down?
Yeah,
Be
hopefully
interesting then. Cool. Okay, so that's my name's BBD. So this actual group, Launchpad, has been running for quite some time now, a couple of years. It's all about sharing deeper insights and wisdom for your practical living, right? Especially information coming from what's called the Vedic teachings, which is an ancient Eastern teaching, which is meant to deal with the human condition from a human, psychological, sociological, and ultimately also from a spiritual perspective. So what we hope to give you is some Eastern wisdom and new ways of seeing things that allow you to be more effective in how you're dealing with the world, and also successful on many levels, especially also to cultivate some inner success by understanding more about who we are and also what can make us truly happy. Okay, so having said all of that, all I think would be nice is we're going to do a little kind of group, competition. Okay. So I'm going to give you a number, because I know when people come, they always sit next to people they know, so we're going to split you all up. Yeah? So we'll give you a number. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, yep. 1, 2, 1, 2, number 1. Can I have number one stand up, please? Come to this side of the room. Yeah. Number 2's on this side of the room. Okay. All we're going to do, to begin with, okay. All we're going to do to begin with is warm you up, okay? The icebreaker's there to break the ice, warm you up, and then we'll get into the discussion. What I have here is some folded pieces of paper. On each piece of paper, there's a famous, wealthy individual's name is on there, okay? We're going to give you a set period of time. You're going to go around, so it'll be one at a time. You have to describe the person who's written down on that piece of paper, and the moment the rest of your team get it, then it's the next person's go, okay? And the winner of the game is the group who are able to describe the most characters in the shortest period of time. In other words, we're going to give you about 1.5 minutes, but if any group finishes all their characters before that time's up, they've won. Does that make sense? Yes, question.
If they're an actor, can we describe films they've been in?
You can describe films that they've been in, okay, but if they're, there's two things. If they actually own a company, right, you can't say the name of the company, and you can't give their initials, okay? because that would just make it too easy. Okay? So you can't say obviously you can't say their name. Right? No. So basically, you can't say their name, and you can't say their initials. If they're an actor, you can say you can say the film they've been in. I'm only giving you that because there's hardly any actors in this, so that's good. And you can't say the name of the company that they own if they're a business person, let's say. So let's just do it like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Are we just doing it within our groups?
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, it's one group versus another. You have to leave that right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so
have we got a minute and a half?
yeah, you can actually each take one, but you can't show it to anyone else for now. Just take one. Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay, you can't let, okay, but the thing is, okay, so listen up. What we're gonna do, I've got a timer, okay, I'm gonna give you a minute and a half, and it starts with the person, you work your way from this way all the way through to the end, okay? So if you want to be in a circle, you can, okay, but you start one, and you go all the way around like that. Does that make sense?
Just within our group.
Yeah, within your group. Yeah, within your group. So do you want to go around into the circle?
Okay. Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. We'll take that into account. Yeah? We'll take that into account.
Excuse me, I'll come back to me.
Oh no, because Panchali's not. Did you all have one? Okay, but what about?
Wait, have they started?
Yeah.
Okay, so you all have one?
So what?
Yeah?
We haven't started yet. No, he didn't say start.
Do you have one? No, but do you have one?
What?
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Teo.
There's one that's
I'll just do 2.
Okay, yeah, you have to 2. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay, so, on your marks. Okay, so remember, you can't say the name of the company. You can.
Done this.
No, but I'm saying because people also. Are you ready started?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, I didn't say go yet.
I thought you said go.
No. Okay, this man.
We only did one.
We've done one. That's okay. Actually, that's actually good. No, that's no. The thing is, there were 7 of you, there's 8 of them.
Okay.
So that's okay. Give you that one back. So that means you've got 7 left, right? So that's the same on both sides. Oh, we've got 2.
Okay, now you can tell this one because I've not seen this
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. So actually, I'm going to give you 1 minute. I think it's better like that, because otherwise you'll do 2. Okay. So don't start yet. But again, the name of the film you can say. If it's a business, you can't say the name of the business. You want to get as many as you can. If you finish under the minute, just raise your hand. Let me know that you've done. Okay. 1 minute, starting from and one person and then the next person. Starting from now.
Cartoons. Pixar.
Woody. What's like it? What's it?
Another company that's not
So
Pixar.
he's the founder of one of the biggest computer companies.
Okay. Well, okay. He sings like
Sang a
the
song.
Dance Like a Butterfly. Yeah.
Okay. She's crazy. And she wears really weird things.
Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
He does the TV
musician.
Jay-Z. Go ahead.
Very powerful.
No, Lucy, she's an American singer. She used to be a single lady.
They're always try to look young.
Stop. I think they beat you to it. Wasn't bad. And just under a minute. I think it was a bit too easy actually. This one will make it much harder. I think it was actually, you guys were pretty quick. Okay, so it's interesting that you knew all these characters. Right? It's interesting that no matter who they were, what field that they were in, one of the things they all have in common is all of the people that were on that piece of paper, on those pieces of paper, they're all very, very wealthy individuals. Right? Very wealthy individuals. And this is really what we want to talk about. Maybe if you go back into the semicircle so everyone's back in. Okay. This is what we want to talk about. I'm going to ask for, actually, what have volunteer? Gopal, if you can come up, please.
So I'm a volunteer.
You're the volunteer.
This is volunteers like the Navy.
Okay, so Gopal. Okay, so just if you just stand there so everyone can see you. So what we're going to do is, we're talking about money, we're talking about wealth. So what I thought we'd do is, if you have your hands out, Gopal.
He's just giving you money, right?
So I'm
already thinking what I'm going to do.
So I'm gonna just put some money just into your hands.
More money.
You got a lot.
Where did you get this one?
So it's for you.
It's for you, thanks.
It's not quite that funny. So let's look at this. When someone gives you money or when you get something, how does that make you feel? You first of all, and then we can also discuss.
I felt like I could get a lot of stuff I needed, which made me feel good.
Okay, you felt you could get a lot of stuff that you need, which makes you feel good?
I also felt apprehensive, because I would owe you.
You would owe me? Okay, that's right, that's true. And any other feelings that came when you just get the money?
Get the feeling in your hands.
Okay.
It's a good feeling.
It's a good feeling?
Yeah.
Okay, we can leave that now. Thank you. So, that feeling, okay? So, think back to when you've been given some cash. Right? Or if you think back, there was a TV program, I can't remember the name of it, and what they would do is they'd have different stages of the game show. And at some point they put money in the person's hand and say, you sure you want to carry on to the next stage? You know? And you could just see that the person, when you put money into someone's hand, what do you think happens to them?
They don't want me more.
They lose a lot.
Oh wait, they want more.
Yeah. Want more? Anything else?
It's the fact that the feel of the paper in the hand makes them, it's like getting a scent of something. They want that.
Okay. They want that. Anything else? What happens when someone puts, someone just gives you some money in your hand? How do you feel?
Bad. Like there's so much energy, they feel like you're on top of the world or something.
Okay, do you feel like you're on top of the world?
To be honest, I have really mixed feelings when I have money in my hands. It is really mixed feelings because you know you can do a lot with that money, yet when you have a lot of money, suddenly you think you can do a lot.
And then you
When you can't. I mean, it's just a piece. You know, it's an illusion because it's just an amount of money you have. And then when it disappeared, it won't give you that same feeling of what you have in your hand.
Interesting.
I feel straight empowered. If someone gives me like £100, it's like, yeah, I didn't have this before. £100, you know what I mean? It's like a gift. It's like, yeah, I feel good. I feel good.
Okay. It's all coming out now. It's good. You know, it's good. It's cool. Anyone else? How do you feel when someone puts some money in your hand? Yes.
I think if the same amount of money, if you spent it on, like, say somebody gave you a bag of rice or something to that same value, it's not the same. It's not as like, I don't really want that. I want to choose. Even though I am going to buy rice in the end, I want to, you know.
Okay. So basically, it's cash for Christmas. Basically, that's it. Cool. Yes.
Yeah, I think if you work for it, then it feels better. But if someone just gives it to you without you working for it, then it loses the value. You know?
Interesting. Thank you for that, Nico. Kunlat and then.
It becomes real because we all know we have a certain amount in our bank account, but that's just a bunch of numbers on the screen. So there's something that becomes like, I don't know, it's just something about holding it which makes you feel, oh, I have money, even though you may already have had it.
Okay, good. So it makes it real, yes.
So in this game show scenario, you were talking about almost when you get that money in your hand, you lose any kind of what we might call rationality or like logic. You don't have a perspective. It's almost as if you've been blinded that you can get more, but because you've got this, you can't almost let it go. It's almost like
the reason why they put the money in the hand is because it builds attachment. If you put something in someone's hand, this is one aspect of what's called Bhakti Yoga. The more the senses are engaged, the more the mind is also engaged, because the mind is considered to be the sixth sense. Right? So there's all the different senses, and the mind is actually like the king of the senses in that sense, in one way of looking at it. So when you put something in people's hands, they can see the money, they can touch the money, right? All of these things, they can even move it around, hear the money. It becomes more and more attractive and becomes more and more attaching. Yeah? Anything else? Yes?
I don't think it's the feeling of money itself, because essentially all money really is a mixed cotton and linen with ink on it. But it's more like what's attached to the money. Like there's a whole thing about the money, like that it has a value. And it's that value that you feel good about.
Okay. So what people can do with it, the value? Yes?
because it represents a certain amount of power or choice.
Yes.
So it's not that we're actually, like what Gopalji said, being attached to the actual material, but we're attached to the possibilities.
Yeah, that's good. So freedom, money is a symbol of something. Yes.
I think it's actually scientifically proven that when you touch money, that stuff just it starts affecting your mind. There are certain neurons that just release and it's like make you happy.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, one point. Nice. Are you sure?
I was just gonna say like like you were saying, it kind of taps into that survival part of you know. For me anyway, because I need money to survive, you know. And that's why I need money to survive. So it kind of taps into that. Yeah, that part of you.
One of the things we're going to talk about today, we're going to show you a video, which is called The Surprising Truth About What Really Motivates Us. And one of the things we're going to show you today is how certain studies suggest that after you actually have enough that you can maintain yourself, that actually there are higher goals, there are higher aspirations, which all of us have. Just acting on your theme, because there is a certain level of survival instinct that we want to keep ourselves alive, to preserve ourselves. But there are also a whole range of other drives which the Vedic teachings speak about, which can be activated and which can give us a more profound sense of happiness than even just having material opulences. We will come back to them. Okay, so the effects. Okay, we want to consider what are the positive and the negative effects of having money. Okay, so let's do this maybe as a group. We'll do a few groups because I think we have a good number of people. So why don't we have a few groups of 4? I'm going to get you to put down, just quickly brainstorm, put down the pros and cons of having money. Okay, what do you feel are the good things about money? Because you touched upon some of them, and what do we feel are the potential dangers? This is not saying money is bad or anything like that, because everything has its use or its value. But we want you to look at and to share with us some of the pros and some of the cons in relation to having money. Okay, this is for you. I'm going to give another 2 out. Just very, very briefly, let's do this for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to feed back. And then we're going to start to show you some of the very interesting companies or careers or professionals, let's say, who work with people based upon the money that they actually have. And there are some people who actually, for a living, deal with people who are very wealthy and help them to understand how to use their money. Okay, so you guys work together.
That's your job.
I said you 4 and I'm going to see you. We'll give you just 3 minutes. Quickly jot down the pros and cons of being wealthy. Go.
I'm
The pros and cons of being wealthy. The pros and cons of being wealthy. Some really interesting things from what I saw. Let's just go around and see what each group is saying in terms of the pros first. So all the pros, and we'll go around the second time, and then let's look at all the cons. And then I have a question for you after we've done that, okay? So, pros.
Okay, we had power to do anything whatsoever.
Ah, interesting.
And we had increased amount of choice.
Okay.
Well.
Pros, please.
Yeah, you can use it for the greater good of whatever you believe is the greater good.
Okay, cool.
And you don't have to rely on anyone.
Okay, interesting.
And also, you don't have to work to maintain something. You've got that.
Okay, interesting. Next one.
So you said you've got more freedom of choice, financial stability, and you can help more people as well.
Having money creates status, so using that influence, as everyone else said, in a good way, whatever that might be. And then options in terms of resources.
Okay.
You know, unfortunately, money drives sort of the physical side of any operation. So just having that resource is quite useful.
Okay, interesting. So a few things that you mentioned about how money can be used for. Let's go around again. This time, what are the cons? What are the dangers? This group.
Okay, so you lose a sense of value, was one con we had. Taking things for granted is another one. This aspect of losing your perception as to, you know, I've got this sense of money this big, but are you actually this big in reality? And the attachment, you're confused about whether people attach to you for your money or for who you are.
They won't touch that.
And also you gain attachment to the money itself.
Okay, you become attached to the money. We're going to talk about that as well today. So you can become attached to, or you can be scared that people are attached to your money as opposed to you. There was a program years ago, it was Oprah Winfrey, it was about gold diggers. It was an interesting program. And so it was all about these people coming on stage and they were talking about how they go for people who've got money, like that. They just like being with people who've got money. And in many cases, after being with them a certain time, they actually just kind of move on to the next person. Having spent that person's money, they just move on. And there's a whole kind of debate about what's wrong with it. You know, if I do that and the guy's happy to be okay with, you know, someone who's like me, what's the issue? So it's a big thing that comes up sometimes. Interesting. Yes, this group.
So just one more are attached to this, doing it for the greater good, as in that, yeah. The con is like your perception's completely ruined, and you think I have so much power and status. I know what is good for everyone. I'm this big. And there was a program on recently on BBC looking at the effect that Bob Geldof and Bono had in raising all this money and awareness to like really alleviate the food crisis in Africa, and he's looking at all of the problems that created. So, so the cons of having so much money is that you can actually create more harm than good.
We're going to look at the psychology of a rogue trader. We have an article about the recent situation that happened at UBS. So we'll go into a bit of that, and we're going to give you a Vedic insight into that. We're going to explain how the Vedic teachings explain that there's a certain psychology called the mode of passion, which comes when we deal with things but without sufficient knowledge and groundedness as well. So thank you for that. This group, the cons of being wealthy.
Well, you've got too much power. You also said you can develop more greed as well.
Is it possible that someone who's got money wants more money? Is that possible?
Yeah. It's almost definite.
You know, there's a whole thing about keeping up with the Joneses, right? So it's interesting. There was a study which was found that the wealthy families, if you ask them, many of them still feel that they're poor. Because once you've got £1 million, you live in an area where other people are millionaires. But then you're only worth £1 million, but next door neighbours, they're worth £2.5 million. How does that make me feel? You know, I'm only worth £1 million, they're worth 2.5 times as much as me. You know? So it's actually very much a relative thing. So everyone's trying to keep up with the Joneses. Good point. Anything else that you had to share on that?
Yeah, also false friendships. So people become attracted to people with money, and also you might become attracted to others because they've got money, you've got money, and you sort of hang out together. But it's not a true friendship. And also judged. Who said that? Was it you?
Yeah.
What was the point?
That people might make assumptions about you based on economic standards.
Does that happen? Do people assume that, like, but let's look at it in two ways. Do you sometimes assume, if someone walked into this room who was obviously very wealthy, what would you assume about that person? Before they've even said anything, what may be assumed about them?
That they're shallow.
Okay, some may say they're shallow.
Like they've kind of been born with a silver spoon in their mouth or something, or it came easy to them or something.
Yeah, they don't have to work for it, they don't know the value of it.
Ungrateful.
Ungrateful, yeah.
It's pretty all negative.
Yeah.
I said they could have worked hard for it.
Yeah. You know, but these are some of the things that go through people's minds, isn't it?
Yeah, but then you have smooth palms and hard palms. Well, it's the saying in France that there's rich people who have smooth palms. They're the people who've never worked a day in their lives. They're the ones you watch out for. Then you have hard palms, like they're the ones that have to work for what they have. And those are the kind of people you can trust.
And we'll come back to that. Anything else as a con? Is there anything else you want to add?
That's all.
That's everything? Thank you. This group. Any cons of being wealthy?
You miss out on simplicity and necessaries, so you lose sight of what is actually needed. You know, and then we came up with such quite an interesting point when you think about it. The responsibility that comes with having money is sometimes overbearing. You know, we seek to have that position and status in society, but are we ready to take on the responsibility that comes with it? And having a great balance can, you know, having a great bank balance can create imbalance in your life, and that when you have too much of something, the scale is automatically tipped, and whatever effect that may have in your life, you know, it's something that you're not in control of.
Okay.
And finally, if you've noticed that all of the pros that you stated are very close to becoming cons. That's quite a precarious position to be in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. You also said about Mr. Useful, you said that once you've got money, you've got the fear of losing it.
Yeah.
That's the con of having a pro, basically. I mean, that's as simple as it gets.
Very interesting. So, yeah. So my manager, he's an entrepreneur. He has like I think a number of businesses, and he was saying that he's been in that situation where he's lost everything, you know. And one statistic says that the majority of millionaires have been bankrupt at least once, the vast majority. So it comes and sometimes it goes. I was working for Barclays Private Bank years ago when the Twin Towers situation happened. And there were some people who had shares kind of involved in that whole endeavor whose shares were wiped out overnight. There were some people that went from being millionaires to having practically nothing overnight. And that can actually happen sometimes. When I was researching for this presentation, we were looking at the road trader, you know, the UBS situation, someone called Kweku Adebole. And what we were looking at was the reports about what happened with him. And the reports said that when the markets were going up, were doing well, he was making a lot of money. But then when the whole recession happened, basically the whole market switched in the opposite direction. And what was doing so well before completely reversed on him, you know? And to the point that he was actually, you've heard of Wonga? You know, the people who give out loans? He was getting money from them. Yeah. And so you go from being someone who's earning £250,000 bonuses, not salary, that's the bonus, to being someone who's going to a loan shop basically to get money. And the interest rate in some of those places is like 1,000% or more. Yeah, so bear that in mind. Okay. So my question now, and maybe some of you know the answer, when you win the lottery, not the way saying you should win the lottery, obviously, but let's say someone wins the lottery, what do you think is the first piece of advice that they're given by professionals? If someone wins a large sum of money, can anyone guess the advice that they're given? No, not invest.
Not invest.
No, it's not invest.
Don't
anyone
tell
else?
anyone.
Don't tell anyone? That's not bad, but that's not what it's told. Don't spend no, that's not what they're given. What do you think the advice is?
They take them away somewhere until things die down. Like once they're announced in the paper, they take them away so they're away from people.
That may be the case. That may be the case. But what advice are they given? What's the first piece of advice they're given?
Some of it into savings.
No, that's not what they're told. Anything else? Can anyone guess?
By normal people, by professionals.
By professionals. No, not split it up. Anyone else? They're given some professional advice.
Hide it in your mattress.
No. Not quite that professional. No. The first piece of advice that they're given when they win a large sum of money, the first thing that they're told is to make sure you get at least a part-time job. Okay? That's the advice that they're given professionally. Make sure, now that you've won X millions of pounds, you must ensure that you at least get a part-time, if not a full-time job.
For the mental health.
Yeah, and the reasoning is that when someone gets money like that, large sums, and they haven't earned it, then it's a huge kind of psychological readjustment. And if they have time on their hands, right, that money will actually, that even though they've won a huge sum, if they have time on their hands, there are many lottery winners who right now have no money. There are some who are actually in debt, right? Because when it comes suddenly like that, and they have nothing to do, what do you think the first thing is what do you think they do with their time?
Go on shops.
Yeah. And do you think they're buying the same things they bought before?
No.
This is called the income effect. When I studied economics, my degree was in philosophy and economics at LSE. The income effect means that the more money you make, the more expensive the goods that you buy will be. Does that make sense? So, you know, when you're earning a little, then you buy the cheap goods. If you earn a lot, then you buy the same goods, but the more expensive luxury version of the same goods. They're advised you must get a part-time job, if not a full-time job, because if you have time on your hands, you will spend all of that money. Many people who win the lottery lose all the money that they have within a year. Within 1 year. That's all it takes. Because they win the money, think, okay, I don't need to work anymore. So they give up the job. Then they start buying it, yeah, exactly, they're not used to it, and things propel from there. So it's an interesting fact to bear in mind. Let's move on. So, why is money so important to people, right? Most people say because of what it gives you and so on. We want to give you another perspective, another angle on this from the Vedic or the Eastern teachings. And that is this statement. This is from a literature called the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, text number 13 to 15. There's a statement here, Ishvaraham aham bhogi, which is a Sanskrit statement, which is an ancient language. The translation is actually that we want to control. Ishvara means controller, and enjoy. Enjoy means bhogi. That's the actual Sanskrit word for someone who wants to enjoy. Not quite like the nose thing, but you get what I'm trying to say. So the point is that one of the reasons why people are so interested in money and wealth is because, and you kind of summarize it through your different points, of two reasons. One, we think that having money will give us more control, isn't it? I can buy what I like, go where I want, when I want, right? And you want to control because we want to enjoy. Right? So this is actually one of the deepest psychological drives behind the pursuit of money. It doesn't have to be that, but that's one of the things that really goes through people's minds when they're trying to get money. So you have to think, is that what's behind us sometimes? Or some of the people that we see? To the extent that that mentality is different, to that extent you can have wealth but not be controlled by it. So something to bear in mind. Okay. What do you think makes wealth? What creates wealth? Any ideas?
Work.
Work? Okay. Someone else?
Abundance.
Abundance? Okay. Someone else? Where do you think wealth actually comes from?
Even your family can give you wealth.
Okay. Your family? Okay. Someone else? Where does wealth come from? See, for example, in many capitalist societies, the idea is that if you get entrepreneurs who are starting new businesses, they create wealth, and then that wealth trickles down to other people, right? You've heard that before?
They don't create wealth. The wealth is already there, you just get some.
Okay, interesting. Someone else?
Can you define wealth? Because I think it's different to money.
Okay.
I think wealth is far more valuable and nourishing. It actually has more value in itself compared to money. Money is just a material thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think with wealth comes someone who is able to sustain that wealth, and it's more sustainable in a way. I think there's a difference between wealth and...
That's good. We can be wealthy in many different things. Let me just add to what you're saying. We can be wealthy in many different areas. You can have a wealth of knowledge, of friendships, relationships, right? We can have a wealth of compassion. But in this sense, we're talking more about assets, material abundance. Does anyone know what actually generates wealth on a very deep level? Okay, so we're going to give you a chain here. This is a 4-part explanation of where wealth comes from, and this is dealing with more of the subtle aspects. There are 4 words. First word is dharma. In the Vedic teachings, this means righteous activity or piety, right? So we're talking now about more deep level causes of wealth. In any society where people are righteous, they generate good karma, okay? If you don't generate good karma, actually, no matter what you have, you can't actually enjoy it, even materially. So this first word is there, which is dharma, which means righteousness, pious activity. From this righteous activity, you get what's called artha. Artha means economic development. If you want to know who will be wealthy in this life, or even in future lives, you're looking for someone who's acting properly, because by acting properly they develop the good karma, which means that at some point in this or another life, they'll be actually wealthy. That's what generates the economic development. When economic development comes, then you can enjoy your senses. This is called karma. You know, like the Kama Sutra? The Kama Sutra? The word karma means material enjoyment, sense gratification, or, material enjoyment. Stimulating the body in material enjoyment. So unless you have economic development, it's pretty hard to actually go out there and just enjoy your senses and use your body for enjoyment. But even when people do that, eventually they become saturated and they want to become free of that or want to go on to something higher than that. Did you hear about, was it Cheryl Cole? There was an article about her getting into religion or spirituality. Does anyone remember that? Did anyone hear about that? Okay, but there were a few stars like that. And there's a picture, even Russell Brand is an example. We were at a program, a few of us, in central London. Was that early this year? Yeah. Who was there? Actually, were you there? Yeah. And so Russell Brand came and he was introducing one guru called Radha Swami. And I saw a little video of him speaking on the This Morning TV program, and he was speaking about his sex addiction. And he said that one guru had told him that the sex drive is really a perverted reflection of our desires to love God. It's an interesting thing to say on live TV. Of course, they were completely baffled about what he was saying. They just wanted to move on quickly to some other topic. But it's an interesting thing to watch. But this is actually the chain. If people are not pious, they can never actually have lasting wealth. And therefore, the people who you see who've got money today, that money on a deep level is generated from their previous pious activity or their spiritual activity. Yeah? There's a spiritual exchange rate that very few people know about. This is how it works in terms of, let's see here, the chain, right? The hidden laws of karma. For example, for every pound that you give in charity to a normal material charity, how much money do you think you get back? Any guesses?
Same amount.
Same amount, yes. For every pound you give in charity, you will eventually get £1 back. If you give that same pound to someone who represents what's called the Brahminical principle, that means a religious teacher, let's say. For every pound you give to that person, if you do it because you respect the position they hold, not them necessarily, but the position they hold, for every pound you give them, you will eventually get a karmic reaction and you'll get £3 back. It will come back to you in some way, shape or form. If you give that pound to someone who's actually what's called a brahmana, which means like a teacher of principles, of higher principles, for every £1 that you give them, if they're actually a brahmana by character, that means they're pious, they're learned, they're knowledgeable, etc. How much do you think you get back for every pound you give them? Any guesses? 100? No, 10,000. And if it's given to a pure spiritual personality, someone who has a very intimate connection with God, for every pound you give them, it's unlimited return.
So
these are subtle laws of karma, yes.
We experience that in this lifetime.
You can experience in this lifetime or even in another lifetime.
So if I give a pound to a brahmana, I'm going to get £10,000.
You get £10,000 back, yeah. You will definitely get £10,000 back.
In this lifetime.
Not necessarily in this lifetime.
Well, it's possible.
It's possible.
Investment
It's
for the
possible.
future.
It's possible.
What governs when we'll get that? When we'll get that?
There's a few subtle things. First of all, it's the quality of the interaction with the person. Because when you give in charity, your charity is also in different categories, right? So when you give in charity blindly, even if the person's qualified, but you're not doing it for that purpose, your purpose also impinges on your karma, right? So if I give charity and I just do it blindly, foolishly, like here you go, then that's activity or charity in the mode of ignorance. If I give the charity, because I heard from BBT, if I give it to this guy, I'll get some real return on my investment, right? Because you're doing it for the money, for the return, that's charity in the mode of passion. But when you do it because it's the right thing to do, right, then that's charity in the mode of goodness. So the mode that you do, or the category that you are given the activity in, that also determines the effect. Yeah? So these are subtleties to it. Yeah? So let's move on. So these are different chains of karma. Now, we want to show you a video. And this video is dealing with, I think this first one is about the Amazon. Is it the first one?
Yeah, I was on Google.
So we want to show you what can happen, right? we think that, you know, people may be attached to money or people want money. But imagine what it's like if you're an institution or a company. It can be even, you're dealing with bigger figures and the attachment can be even stronger, but eventually everything comes out. Let's have a look at this video. This is from a TV, this is from the BBC News website. This is something that, a news story that came up recently. One second. How do we get the sound? Is that on?
How's that?
Yeah, okay, let me go back. Okay. Let me switch it out actually. No. Is it on?
Try on the computer.
The computer's okay because we tried that before. So let's try.
Starbucks and today they found themselves before a committee of MPs to answer.
Okay, let's take the computer again.
They're among the biggest global brands, Google.
Is everyone here first of all?
Today they found
No?
themselves before a committee of MPs to answer.
Okay.
Joe, it was because of his steps back that I didn't hear it.
Let's see if there's any way we can actually. Is there, what did we do before? Because it was quite clear before.
I think when everyone's still, can everyone hear when everyone's still?
Yeah,
I think it's just because the walking.
Yeah? Okay, let's try this again. Because this is actually a current news story where 3 of the biggest multinational companies are actually being brought to explain themselves in terms of how they're managing to avoid paying a certain amount of tax. What do you think is the average percentage of tax that people pay in this country, working person? Any ideas? Percentage-wise? 15, 20, okay. Okay, 30. Okay, so imagine this now. These companies, some of these companies are paying less than 1%, and some of them aren't paying any tax at all.
Starbucks got reported for that.
Yeah, so these guys are all there, and they're earning. Some of them are earning about close to 400 million, okay, and paying no tax. So just something to bear in mind.
The way Starbucks got around it was.
Let's just we're just gonna keep quiet just for a second because otherwise we can't hear this. Then we'll discuss it. Yeah. So everyone be quiet 1 second. Thank you.
They're among the biggest global brands, Google, Starbucks and Amazon. And today they found themselves before a committee of MPs to answer accusations about why they pay so little tax in the UK. It's part of a wider inquiry by the Commons Public Accounts Committee into tax avoidance, as Simon Goggins reports.
In the MP's firing line are 3 American multinationals, Google, Starbucks and Amazon, with big sales in the UK who don't seem to pay much tax. Their first target was Starbucks. It's been accused of telling investors it was doing well in the UK, but reporting losses, so hardly any corporation tax was due. The members of the Public Accounts Committee said this simply didn't ring true.
You're either running the business very badly, or there's some fiddle going.
It seems to me that this is a system specifically designed to avoid tax.
We clearly are not aggressively looking to avoid tax on any structure anywhere. We have had profitability challenges, very sincere ones, unfortunately, that we're not pleased with. But it is nothing, I assure you, nothing to do with any tax avoidance.
Starbucks had sales of £398 million last year and paid 0 corporation tax, even though the standard rate is 24%. Google's sales were £395 million, it paid £6 million in tax. Amazon, on sales of over £3 billion, it says it paid £1.8 million in UK corporation tax last year. How do they do it? With perfectly legal loopholes. One is to transfer money to an operation overseas and take the profits there, and the other to base the business in another country, so that's where the customers' payments are sent. The committee accused Amazon of eliminating most of its UK corporation tax bill by putting its European head office in Luxembourg.
Your entire activity is here, yet you pay no tax here, and that really rises.
Amazon pleaded that it did at least pay other taxes.
We've paid in excess of 100 million in payroll taxes in the last 5 years. We've paid tens of millions in business rates.
And Google, it's based its business in Ireland.
First, let me say, we pay the tax we're required to pay in every country in
Including the UK. Depends where you choose to put the business over. This is what all this argument
So smart.
unless the rules have changed. Multinationals are likely to carry on paying as little tax as they have to. Simon Gompert's BBC News.
Lights back on, please. So that's interesting, isn't it? So you see how it goes? £395 million and no tax. Zero.
3.3 billion.
Yeah, 1.6 million. Yeah. So you see, it's very interesting. This is actually part of the psychology that comes if one isn't carefully grounded. Whatever we have, we tend to get attached to. This is a statement in the Bhagavad Gita. That just by even contemplating something we get attached. What to speak of when you have it. And when something's in your hand, right? Imagine how strongly one becomes attached to that. And so you can be a billionaire and be so attached you feel like you don't want to give anything away. One of the things about the Vedic culture and the Vedic teachings is that we're taught to be very careful about assuming that we're stronger and more detached than we are. Yeah? Now there's a thing that happens sometimes when people are very wealthy, which deals with what you guys spoke about. That sometimes there are real cons, there are real issues that come up in their lives. So, do you recognise this woman by any chance?
No.
Her name is Dr. Rohit Lami, L-A-M-I. And it's interesting you've never seen her. You probably wouldn't see her unless you're a millionaire. Right? She's a psychologist who specialises in helping people who suffer from affluenza. Yeah? It's called, and it's actually called that, affluenza, an unbalanced relationship with money. Right? She has clients. She does TV and radio and other kinds of shows and stuff. She's got her website. That's where I got the information from. And she's there to help people who who have an unbalanced relationship with money. And that can affect people from any background. The point is that the money is a medium. It's not the end. It's something that can be used, but it's not something that should use us. But very much in modern society, people get used by money because the money can actually affect people's psychology and change them. We're going to look at something actually. I'm going to give you some articles. This one is by Bloomberg. If you could read out the heading, the title of the article.
Sure. Poor in India starless politician steals 14.5 billion of food.
Yeah. This one is about the rogue trader. Can you read the title?
Psychology of the rogue trader.
Okay, this one is actually on Bill Gates and the money that he's using to end some issues in the world. What's the title, please?
Bill Gates on India's first polio-free year.
Okay, so you can have that one. So this one, the psychology of the trader. We'll give a few out, and actually, if you could read out the title for this one.
MP's expenses, David Chaser jailed over false claims.
This is to do with the whole thing that came out earlier, I think this year, when the MPs were claiming expenses, and loads of them were claiming expenses on things that they shouldn't have been claiming for.
What, like second houses?
Second houses, all kinds of things,
books.
yeah, exactly. So what we want you to do is, we just give a few out. And this one also, it's actually another one. If you could read the title of this one.
They're convicted of 29 million from negligence.
Yeah. So this is actually what goes on. You can maybe take that one. The one which is about the poor in India, it's a bit long, so you don't have to read the whole thing, but even 1 or 2 pages gives you a good idea. So maybe read in pairs, and then what you're going to do is just share some of the points from the article that you've read, okay? Share some of the points from the article that you've read with the wider group.
What did you focus on? Yeah, I feel like I should be compassionate. I feel like I should be. And I feel like when I saw people like another is like kind of anger.
Can you highlight?
Yeah, you can highlight, you can write on there, anything you want to do, that's fine, yeah? The main thing is to give you some food for thought about positive and negative effects of money. Okay, so we're studying that. Money, can it make you happy? Yes, no, agree, disagree. So we're looking at some examples around that, you know, and how it can affect people. And then we'll talk a little bit about that too, about how it can affect people. So for those who've got longer articles, don't worry if you don't read the whole thing, but even just a bit of it will give you some key points that you can share. Okay? Because these are case studies of how money can be used or can be misused. Okay? And if you look on the screen, we'll put some images up. One of Bill Gates, some of you have the article about Bill Gates eliminating polio. And does anyone recognize this guy? Yeah, people recognize this,
So
this
what?
person?
Why are you on?
That's right.
Some of you recognize this guy. His name is Kwaku Adebole, and he he's just been in prison for 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah, for 7 years for misusing, I think, over 1.4 billion pounds of UBS money. Yeah, like that. So there's a whole thing. There's an article that some of you have, which is about this, called "The Psychology of the Rogue Trader," and it just deals with how traders sometimes think and how they're encouraged to behave. Okay, it's very interesting. In the article on that, what they're talking about in the article correlates perfectly with what's given in the Vedic teachings, right, where it talks about the mode of passion. And in the mode of passion, it stimulates greed, it stimulates a certain way of short-term thinking, where one doesn't really see things as they are, and it becomes a downward spiral. And in the mode of passion, things look good in the beginning because you're making some money, but then it encourages more and more risk-taking, which goes beyond what's actually feasible or sensible. And then you have the downward spiral. Okay? Very, very interesting. So when we're talking about money, you could say, well, Bill Gates, it's like a blank check. He's giving money away, and he's encouraging many other people to give away money, many other billionaires and millionaires to give money to charity, to make a difference in the world. And I think some of you will talk about that in a minute, about his work in terms of polio. But then also, you have the other side. It's a blank check or blank check. For some people, the whole idea of pursuing money is because there's some inner emptiness, and because they're not introspecting, they're not trying to look at what's the real issue, what's the real motivation behind my activity, then they go into a downward spiral, right? This is called spiritual substitution. When you have a society where people are not dealing with their spiritual needs, then even the material thing becomes a substitute for the fact that they're not spiritually or deeply internally satisfied or nourished. Have you ever met someone like that, who's trying to get external things to hide, to cover up the fact that internally they feel empty? Yes or no? Yeah. Many people in that situation. You know? So the whole thrust of what we're speaking about is there's many levels, and we should take care of all of them. The physical level, the physical needs, they should be taken care of. There's nothing wrong with having a good house, good career, good car, good external settings. That's very good on the physical level. But we also have a need for emotional stimulation, good relationships, and we also have a need for spiritual stimulation as well. Yeah? When all levels are taken care of, then you can be really happy, really strong. But if anything's missing, it can cause issues. Okay, so just something to bear in mind. Okay, let's have, maybe if you start by sharing a few key points from what you read, and then we'll have anyone else who read the same thing share a few points, and then we'll go around and we'll discuss. So anything that stood out from you, if you could tell us what you were reading about, and anything that stood out for you from there.
Okay, so the article was on poor India, starved as politicians steal £14.5 billion of food. Essentially, the crux of it is that you've got politicians who have like stores of rice, they have stores of they have wheat, rice, and they're storing it in a field. Whereas it's actually meant for someone called Ram Kishan, but they're just storing it in a field for their own.
Yes.
And they're not giving it to the people that it's intended for. And I mean, because of the nature of the law and the system there, they just haven't been able to actually get hold of these amenities that are for them.
So I'll just add to that. Especially in developing countries, it's sometimes considered that if you're in a position of authority, it's natural and normal just to steal. You know that? In many, many developing countries, it's like that. Now, unfortunately, it does happen even in this country, but it doesn't get exposed as much, although the MP expensive thing did kind of really bring that up. So that's a situation where many, many billions of pounds worth of food and resources are just being siphoned off. And there was another article, I didn't put it on this presentation, but it said that over $14 trillion has been sent to foreign bank accounts and so on, is hiding in the system somewhere. That should be taxed and used in certain countries. $14 trillion.
Probably is in some Swiss bank accounts.
Yeah, Swiss bank accounts. Yeah. So many people are doing that, manipulating figures, manipulating money, which should actually be used for the good of other people. Thank you for sharing a few points. Is there anything you'd like to... Actually, first before, was there anyone else who read the same article who'd like to add something to that? Is there anything you want to add?
No, because the point was like this, so there's nothing else to add.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I read it as well, just put it in perspective. Like, so this food, that $14.5 billion worth of food, is supposed to go to 350 million families in India. I suppose there's only like 70 million people in the whole UK, so that's like 6 times the UK. They're getting exploited because of just the greed. And there's just one quote someone tells him, is like, who is a person who holds a below poverty line ration card? Who are the people that are supposed to get this food? A person of no influence. So I thought
it's very heavy. Yeah. Such people who do that, in their next life they'll be born in a very difficult situation. And they'll have to feel what it's like to be on the receiving end of being manipulated and also having resources which are meant for them taken away. It's a very, very serious thing when our leaders don't behave properly. Because if you're in a position of leadership and you don't behave properly, there's even more karmic reaction than a normal person. Very interesting. Thank you. Which one were you reading?
Yeah, mine's on MP's expenses. David Chater jailed over false claims. He basically claimed he owned a flat somewhere in Westminster or something like that. And he said he was paying for it to a Sarah Elizabeth Rastrick, which was actually his daughter's first and middle names. He claimed 1,175. He also claimed other stuff, but basically he didn't actually pay that, so he actually used the money basically.
Yeah. Do you think the politicians who go in, do you think people who go into politics go with a desire to be corrupt? Be honest. Do you think that?
Some of them.
Some of them, but many don't. I went for an interview when I was going for my degree. I was thinking of doing PPE, philosophy, politics, and economics at Oxford University. So I went for an interview there, and I remember speaking one evening with one of the other guys, and it was interesting. They were all speaking about how they wanted to change the world for the better. Right? So you should know, factually speaking, I will say most people who go into politics or things like that, they want to make a difference. What do you think changes?
They probably see that a lot of people aren't there anymore for that, and then they just get siphoned off.
Yeah. This is what it's, please.
I was just going to say, all that they're doing, those little expenses and stuff, they don't think it's such a big deal, and everyone else is doing it, and so they're still probably under the impression that they're doing better.
This is a good point. So there's two things. One is everyone actually has a weak spot. Right? We should be in no illusion. That includes, everyone includes us. People have different psychologies. So an area in which you're strong, someone else may be weak, and vice versa. So a person who really knows themselves is really aware of their Achilles heel. That's the first thing. Second is no matter how strong we are, we're always part of a culture or a context. So if you're the only principle-centered person when everyone else is doing it, do you feel you'll be under pressure to follow? Yes or no? Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you're in a group, everyone else doesn't like a certain person, You think they're okay, but everyone else is criticizing that person. Have you ever been in that situation? Yeah?
No.
You didn't, but many people have. And you sometimes find that you may have even in the past got swept along with their way of thinking, yes or no? Happens all the time. So the context is important, and also our psychology is important. Many of these people that you're reading about, they weren't like that from day one, right? But they got complacent. They got into the mood that I'm fine, I'm strong, I'm not like that, I'm not like these people. That's called shadow projection. The best way to remain free of other people's bad habits is whenever you see a bad quality in another person, is always to look within yourself and see to what degree that same quality is present in you. It keeps you humble, it stops you becoming complacent, and you won't become like them. But if ever we feel we're better than other people, I'm not like that, these really bad people who are stealing, I'm above them, I don't do that, then often what happens is life will put you in a situation where that same bad quality will come out. So humility is one of the biggest things that can protect people from being influenced in a negative way. Humility also means that we will never become complacent and will never take, in the Vedas, any material temptation is called maya, right? If we are humble and we don't think we're great, then we never become complacent and we never take the material energy for granted. And by not taking her for granted, we're always most likely to succeed. But if we get laid back and think, I'm above that, I'm superior to that, then you'll be surprised how many people who are now in difficulty were thinking that way, and that's exactly what's caused them to be in that situation. So thank you for that. Who else? Do you want to say something on that, first of all?
I just wanted to ask a question.
Yes, go
I see
on.
people that do bad and then they get bad reactions.
Yes.
But if they don't remember what they did, how did they learn their lesson?
Good point. There's two different things. One is it leaves a subconscious mark on them, right? There's some people in the world right now who are very nice people, and they don't even know why they're nice people. They're nice people because in their previous life they weren't, and they got such a heavy negative experience that in this life they're scared to do it. But it's a subconscious effect, right? So sometimes it's like you will remember sometimes because it may be within the same lifetime, or it'll leave a very strong impression on your mind, even though you don't remember fully what happened. Do you see my point? So that's there. But also, as you become more spiritual or introspective, these things will become more conscious. You'll be consciously aware of these things. Yes, that's a good question. Yes.
Also in politics, I know some people who want to get into politics, and well, even getting into the private politics is all about literally see. It's all about into the underground world behind the facade that you see. And so I say to these people, how do you want to change your life? Because you have to change yourself to get into this world. You have to become treacherous, like a different person to get into all these mind games and political games. And what these young people like us said to me is that they want to go through this to change the world. So they want to take a uniform, sort of play a role that does not correspond to what they are on the inside, hoping that they can channel something through it. But I think
the main issue is if you immerse yourself in something, it's going to affect you.
That's
if you're
the
in a world
same.
where people are cheating all the time, you're going to start cheating, you're going to start stealing, you're going to start siphoning funds.
But that's how people get into politics.
That's true.
They hope that they could going to take this role, but not being affected by it in the inside.
You will be affected,
they will.
Unless, there's one exception to that. Unless one is constantly strengthening their inside, which is rare. It doesn't happen generally. But that's one of the benefits of spiritual practices. Generally, you have no other techniques that can strengthen you from the inside out. Because from the outside, we're being affected. But this is one class of activity that can allow you to strengthen yourself from the inside out. And furthermore, we call this Sangha. If you're accountable, this is called interdependence. If you stay in touch with people who are strong, then it's almost like you're jumping into the water to save people who are drowning, but you're tied and connected to someone who's very clearly on the ship. So even if the waves are very strong, you can always be pulled back in. Does that make sense? A principle of success is to always be interdependent with the right people. Then, whatever you're doing is done not based upon your own strength only, but upon the collective strength of your network as opposed to you alone. there's a famous story. I think it was Ulysses. There was one character who was, no, I think Jason and the Argonauts, I think that was it. But basically they were the sirens.
Oh no, that's Odysseus.
So, Odysseus, sorry, yeah. They were the sirens who were very beautiful, or no, they sounded very beautiful, but they were actually really like dangerous creatures, and anyone who heard them was attracted to go to them, and they'll destroy that person. So what the what's the name again?
Odysseus.
Odysseus. What Odysseus did is he tied himself to the boat and he said, "No matter what I tell you, don't allow me to don't time me."
Meant to put beeswax in their ears.
Yeah, you know. So the men couldn't hear the sirens, and he wanted to go to the sirens because they were so attractive, but he had allowed himself to be dependent on other people, and therefore he was able to achieve something that he would not have been able to achieve by his own strength. This is a big tip for your life. This kind of spiritual connection allows you to do things that, practically speaking, by our own strength we couldn't do. Yeah? And this mood of humility, not taking things for granted, not thinking I'm strong, I can do it, but rather working from the outside. Even if you are strong, if someone thinks I'm going to play it safe, then even if you are strong, your strength added to everyone else's strength means you can do amazing things. So thank you for that. That was a really good point. What other articles were there? Yes.
Psychology of a road trader.
So this is Kwaku Adibuli, and this is about what happened with him. Can you share a few points on it?
Basically, it's about how road traders, they kind of their job is to gamble. They take risks with money. And either they get the profit or they lose the money. And it's also very linked in with male psychology because there's this kind of it's called the winner effect. When you take a bet and you win the bet, you feel more inclined to take more risks and like you take bigger risks. So that's what happened to him. He had a long winning streak and then he just lost something. And instead of trying to cover it up or like put his own money into it and kind of like pay the company back, he decided to double the bet and then he lost that as well and then he got caught.
That's called the mode of passion. In the Bhagavad Gita, it describes different psychologies. It says activity in the mode of passion incites greed. So you get something, but it's never actually enough because whatever you've got, you want more. Then when you've got that, then you need more. Then when you've got that, you need more. And it's a downward spiral. So it's a very, very dangerous thing. This is a key point to bring out here. Every activity we do affects our psychology in some way. There are no neutral activities. Yeah? This is something that people don't know. But this is a big tip. Everything we do, so that you can do activities where you're learning and growing as a person. That's activities in the mode of goodness. That spirals you upwards towards greater degrees of knowledge and greater degrees of even material or mental happiness. But activities in passion go the opposite. They start very well. So your trader, was Kwaku successful in the beginning?
Yeah.
Very successful. I mean, this guy was getting £250,000 bonuses, not salary, bonuses. That's just on top of what he was earning, right? And he rose through the ranks very quickly, you know. I think he was part of a group called the Musketeers or something like that. There's some kind of
wasn't mentioned in here.
Yeah, there's some kind of nickname they had for them, right? But it begins like that. In the long term, it ends very, very badly. Now the funny thing is, though, we were looking at research for this last night. He's not the biggest rogue trader. This is like, he's been singled out and given a lot of attention, but there have been traders, like we were doing the research last night, there was one trader who lost 3.7 billion. He lost 1.4 billion, there was something a few years back, 3.7 billion. And I'll show you actually someone, you see this guy? He was one trader who lost a lot of money. Now, this is a little bit funny, so I'm going to do you recognize this woman?
What? That's that guy.
It's the same guy.
What?
He turned up to court dressed as a woman wearing a wig, and the court agreed that he was psychologically unstable and let him off.
What?
Seriously?
Are you being serious?
I'm serious. This is right.
Yeah.
We were researching this. This happens.
What happened is So he lost around 200 to 300 million pounds.
Yeah.
And he must have had a lawyer that advised him that if he turned what he done after is when he got found out, he started wearing dresses, wigs, etc.
Yeah.
And
Seriously.
the courts dismissed his trial on the grounds that he had mental health issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
you
just
just
like a lawyer, basically.
Yeah, it's something. Lipstick. But you see, it happens. But you see, again, this is what goes on sometimes. If people aren't aware of these things, then this is the effect it can have. Money's not bad, but the point is that it's an energy. In the Vedas, actually, all wealth is considered to be Lakshmi. If you remember nothing else, this is a very important point. In the Vedic understanding, all wealth is considered to be Lakshmi, or the energy of the Supreme. And that Lakshmi is considered feminine, and it's always meant to be connected to the Supreme. So when people try to enjoy energy or wealth or resources separately, then it's said that this is what can cause the beginning of some real issues in that person's life. So this is actually what happened here. The case was dismissed because they considered that he was actually mentally unstable. Now let's go on to something slightly different. I have these, and I want you to help me to put them in order. Okay? We've got two sets of the same words. And these are 4 reasons why people feel someone works, okay? So what are people working for? I like you to put them in order, or work out, you decide an order, yeah? What do you think is the most important reason why people are working? That would be the top point. What's the second most important reason? The third and the fourth most important reason that people work?
I think it's that one at the top. And then
Put it together, put it in order that you feel is appropriate. Why?
We're talking about most people.
Most people, yeah, not you necessarily in this room.
Exactly.
But you.
I think
Is this prestigious work or just general? Most people don't even think about it.
I've been very selective.
Why? What's the order?
Isn't everyone like trying to
Most of what people act, the way that most people act is they act based on their example. So they're more acting for recognition than wealth. Wealth is just dovetailed onto the recognition.
So what's the order?
Yeah,
Wealth, it would come recognition,
What's the
and then personal.
so quickly put it to the top and then we're going to discuss it.
You mean first reference to Nashville? Yeah, so that's the one.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop there.
Recognition is the second point.
I'm gonna stop there. What's interesting, guys, what's interesting are 2 things. One, you can agree on what the reasoning was. Is that true?
Yeah.
People have different opinions. That's okay. I'm just asking about it. Is that true?
Yeah.
People have different opinions. Let's talk through it. So, who here thinks that recognition is the top reason that people work? Okay, can you explain a bit about why you say that?
Yeah, because, well, that's my personal experience really. Like, I wouldn't do anything unless I get recognised really. Like, even if I got all had all this wealth, but no one knew I was wealthy, then I'd be like, it's pointless.
Well, I thought we were talking about most people.
Yeah, most people.
That's one of most people I know.
Oh, that's okay. That's his opinion. That's fair enough. Did you want to say something on that?
So yeah, I would say not for myself, but most people, yeah, generally.
Okay, interesting. Who put something else as top?
Another thing, I don't think sometimes if you're greedy and you want more money, more help, you're selfish. So maybe the recognition is the last thing that you're thinking of.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so yeah, it could be a different order for different people. Any other thoughts? Who thought something else was the top reason? Anyone else?
Well, we put maintenance.
Okay, why?
Because people, ultimately people would work so they could live.
Yeah,
To
to feed
themselves.
Okay, to feed themselves.
Pay their rent and
Okay.
stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a certain point as to which that's true. At a certain point you have enough money to maintain yourself, whether or not you need it or not.
Yeah, but we're talking about most people. Most people in the world just work for
Actually, yeah, that's
maintenance. That's the reality.
Now, what's interesting is there are many changes which are happening in the world right now due to the recession and many cuts. I mean, I'm sure many of you have been seeing what's going on in Greece and different countries. They're making really heavy austerity measures, cutting many many benefits and different things, and people are rioting because they're feeling that the quality of their living will go down, right? So now there's a difference between standard of living, which is an economic thing, and quality of life. Actually, quality of life is based more upon subtle things like relationships, community, friendships. Standard of living is more an economic variable. The reason why I did this exercise is to get you to consider some of the reasons why people work. I want to throw out to you another reason that most people would never think about. And this is this. We would consider that for many people, what they're looking for through their work is this.
Transcendence.
Transcendence. It sounds a bit strange, doesn't it?
Do you mean transcendence by getting a better job?
No, transcendence means
their current work.
transcendence meaning a higher purpose. I'm going to show you this video now. This is actually a video which looks at some research which was done in terms of why people, let's go back, in terms of why people work. This is actually research which was done by different universities. Can we have the lights off? This will be about 10 minutes, but I think you're going to find this very, very interesting. And I think if we keep still, then everyone can hear, because there's a lot of very good information that's going to be in this video.
I love these.
Our motivations are unbelievably interesting. I mean, I find, I've been working on this for a few years, and I just find the topic still so amazingly engaging and interesting. So I want to tell you about that. The science is really surprising. The science is a little bit freaky, okay? We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think. There's a whole set of unbelievably interesting studies. I want to give you two that call into question this idea that if you reward something, you get more of the behavior you want. If you punish something, you get less of it. So let's go from London to the mean streets of Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the northeastern part of the United States. Let's talk about a study done at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Here's what they did. They took a whole group of students and they gave them a set of challenges. Things like memorizing strings of digits, solving word puzzles, other kinds of spatial puzzles, even physical tasks like throwing a ball through a hoop. Okay, they gave them these challenges and they said to incentivize their performance, they gave them 3 levels of rewards. Okay? So if you did pretty well, you got a small monetary reward. If you did medium well, you got a medium monetary reward. And if you did really well, if you were one of the top performers, you got a large cash prize. Okay? We've seen this movie before. This is essentially a typical motivation scheme within organizations, right? We reward the very top performers, we ignore the low performers, and the other folks kind of in the middle. Okay, you get a little bit. So what happens? They do the test, they have these incentives. Here's what they found out. 1, as long as the task involved only mechanical skill, bonuses worked as they would be expected. The higher the pay, the better the performance. Okay, that makes sense. But here's what happens. But once the task called for even rudimentary cognitive skill, a larger reward led to poorer performance. Now this is strange, right? A larger reward led to poorer performance? How can that possibly be? Now what's interesting about this is that these folks here who did this are all economists, 2 at MIT, 1 at the University of Chicago, 1 at Carnegie Mellon, okay? Top tier of the economics profession. And they're reaching this conclusion that seems contrary to what a lot of us learned in economics, which is that the higher the reward, the better the performance. And they're saying that once you get above rudimentary cognitive skill, it's the other way around. Which seems like this kind of, the idea that these rewards don't work that way seems vaguely left-wing and socialist, doesn't it? It's kind of this kind of weird socialist conspiracy. For those of you who have those conspiracy theories, I want to point out the notoriously left-wing socialist group that financed the research, the Federal Reserve Bank. So this is the mainstream of banks that comes to a conclusion that's quite surprising. It seems to defy the laws of behavioral physics. So this is strange. There's strange findings. So what do? They say, this is free. Let's go test it somewhere else. Maybe that $50 or $60 prize isn't sufficiently motivating for an employee, right? So let's go to a place where $50 is actually more significant relative. Right? So let's take the experiment. We're going to go to Madurai, India, rural India, where $50, $60, whatever the number was, is actually a significant sum of money. So they replicated the experiment in India roughly as follows. Small rewards, the equivalent of 2 weeks' salary. Small performance, low performance, 2 weeks' salary, medium performance, about a month's salary, high performance, about 2 months' salary. Okay, so those are real good incentives, because you're going to get a different result here. Well, what happened, though, was that the people offered the medium reward did no better than the people offered the small reward. But this time around, the people offered the top reward. They did worse of all. Higher incentives led to worse performance. What's interesting about this is that it actually isn't all that anomalous. This has been replicated over and over and over again by psychologists, by some extent by algorithmic set of rules where you have to just follow along and get a right answer, if then rewards, carrots and sticks, outstanding. But when the task gets more complicated, when it requires some conceptual, creative thinking, those kinds of motivators demonstrably don't work. In fact, money is a motivator at work, but in a slightly strange way. If you don't pay people enough, they won't be motivated. What's curious about, there's another paradox here, which is that the best use of money as a motivator is to pay people enough to take the issue of money off the table. Pay people enough so that they're not thinking about money, they're thinking about the work. Now, once you do that, it turns out there are 3 factors that the science shows lead to better performance. Not to mention personal satisfaction. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is our desire to be self-directed, to direct our own lives. Now, in many ways, traditional notions of management run afoul of that. Management is great if you want compliance, but if you want engagement, which is what we want in the workforce today as people are doing more complicated, sophisticated things, self-direction is better. Let me give you some examples of this. Almost radical forms of self-direction in the workplace that lead to good results. Let's start with this company right here, Atlassian, an Australian company. It's a software company, and they do something really cool. Once a quarter, on Thursday afternoon, they say to their developers, for the next 24 hours, you can work on anything you want. You can work on it the way you want, you can work on it with whomever you want. All we ask is that you show the results to the company at the end of the 24 hours. And this fun kind of meeting, not a star chamber session, but this fun meeting with beer and cake and fun and other things like that. It turns out that that one day of pure, undiluted autonomy has led to a whole array of fixes for existing software, a whole array of ideas for new products that otherwise had never emerged. One day. Now, this is not an if-then incentive. This is not the sort of thing that I would have done 3 years ago before I did this research. I would have said, you want people to be creative and innovative? Give them a freaking innovation bonus. If you do something cool, I'll give you $2,500. They're not doing this at all. They're essentially saying, you probably want to do something interesting. Let me just get out of your way. One day of autonomy produces things that never emerged. Now let's talk about mastery. Mastery is our urge to get better at stuff. We like to get better at stuff. This is why people play musical instruments on the weekend. You have all these people who are acting in ways that seem irrational economically. They play musical instruments on weekends. Why? It's not going to get them a mate. It's not going to make them any money. Why are they doing it? Because it's fun. Because you get better at it, and that's satisfying. Go back in time a little bit. I imagine this if I went to my first economics professor, a woman named Mary Alice Schulman, and I went to her in 1983 and said, Professor Schulman, can I talk to you after class for a moment? Yeah. I got this inkling, I got this idea for a business model, I just want to run it past you. Here's how it would work. You get a bunch of people around the world who are doing highly skilled work, but they're willing to do it for free and volunteer their time, 20, sometimes 30 hours a week. Okay, she's looking at you somewhat skeptically there. Oh, but I'm not done. And then what they create, they give it away rather than sell it. It's going to be huge. I mean, she truly would have thought I was insane. Okay, it seemed to fly in the face of somebody think, well, what do you have? You got Linux powering 1 out of 4 corporate servers in Fortune 500 companies, Apache powering more than the majority of web servers, Wikipedia. What's going on? Why are people doing this? Why are these people, many of whom are technically sophisticated, highly skilled people who have jobs? Okay? They have jobs. They're working at jobs for pay, doing challenging, doing sophisticated technological work. And yet, during their limited discretionary time, they do equally, if not more, technically sophisticated work, not for their employer, but for someone else for free. That's a strange economic behavior. Economists who looked into it, why are they doing this? It's overwhelmingly clear. Challenge and mastery, along with making a contribution. That's it. What you see more and more is the rise of what you might call the purpose motive. Is that more and more organizations want to have some kind of transcendent purpose. Partly because it makes coming to work better, partly because that's the way to get better talent. And what we're seeing now is, in some ways, when the profit motive becomes unmoored from the purpose motive, bad things happen. Bad things ethically sometimes, but also bad things just like not good stuff, like crappy products, like lame services, like uninspiring places to work. And when the profit motive is paramount, or when it becomes completely unhitched from the purpose motive, it just, people don't do great things. More and more organizations are realizing are animated by this purpose. But let me give you a couple of examples. Here's the founder of Skype. He says, our goal is to be disruptive, but in the cause of making the world a better place. Pretty good purpose. Here's Steve Jobs. I want to put a ding in the universe. All right? That's the kind of thing that might get you up in the morning racing to go to work. So I think that that we are purpose maximizers, not only profit maximizers. I think the science shows that we care about mastery very, very deeply. And the science shows that we want to be self-directed. And I think that the big takeaway here is that if we start treating people like people and not assuming that they're simply horses, slower, smaller, better smelling horses, if we get past this kind of ideology of carrots and sticks and look at the science, I think we can actually build organizations and work lives that make us better off, but I also think they have the promise to make our world just a little bit better.
Can you light that on, please? What did you think of that?
What's the name of this?
It's called The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. RSA Animate. So what did you think? Any thoughts on what you just saw? Yes.
I thought it was interesting the question, why do people do things like play instruments on the weekend when it's not really, if they're already in a career that's established, like it's not really going to get they're not necessarily looking to take it anywhere, but it's just a thing to do. I just thought it was interesting why people do things like that. Because there's a need to develop your like self in that way.
Yeah, definitely. Someone else? Any other thoughts on what you just saw? Anyone?
Well,
Just thinking if the whole society and the whole mentality is completely structured off this idea, then the motivation comes from more profit. And how could you go about changing that? No matter how much science, you were saying earlier in class, like if people are just scientists are kind of told to put things off, and like this isn't going to work. I'm just interested to find out how that could practically be applied, because it's definitely in our own personal experience we can actually feel this, like you do something really well when you haven't got something attached to it, and you need to, that puts the pressure on.
That's a good point. See, one thing is, that's one of the reasons why, that's one of the missions of Launchpad. It's that forum where people who are like-minded can come together, share ideas, and at least we can model that. Now, if you notice what was being said in this video, is that it does affect the bottom line. The companies which are flourishing, are those where they allow these other things to take place. That means that it will actually have an effect. And in many cases, people are not interested in the cause, but they're interested in the effect. When they see that someone's company is doing really well, then they start to examine, what is it about this person's company that means that they're doing so well when we've got maybe more people, more hardworking, all this kind of stuff, and we're not doing as well as they are. So there is a way to trace it back. But very, very key point is it begins with us. If we change, right? If we change in this room, if we take these things on board and do things a different way, then other people can be inspired by that. But it has to start with someone. Yeah, like that. Thank you for that comment. Yes?
I was thinking just regarding Steve Jobs and Apple computers, whatever you guys might think about Apple, and actually the way, I was reading a book about the way it works at Apple headquarters. The developers, they work in teams, and they're encouraged to develop their own product within a team, and they're encouraged to compete. One team against the other, which one is the best product, which one will actually be produced. So there's actually tens of projects at Apple that are not being produced and implemented. But I reckon that's the way they produce wonderful products, because they encourage in a team to do what they like, regardless. They're not just saying, oh yes, we'll give you a pile of cash if you do that. But that's the way they produce this wonderful products, to me at least. But they're good products anyways. So
Thank you.
I think that's applied to the actual situation, and that's the biggest company in the world right now. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Yes.
I thought it was interesting where it was mentioned that, where he was mentioning his wacky idea about getting people to do things for free and then give it away for free, and how this can work in that. I was thinking it's kind of related to how a lot of people are looking for money for satisfaction, but what's really making people happy is serving other people.
Yeah.
So they're doing something for, like I think you mentioned earlier, someone else's benefit, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. It's a very good point. This is Now the Bhagavad Gita or the Eastern teachings have a very interesting parallel with what you're saying here. See, according to the Bhagavad Gita, or let's use it like a kind of sutra or statement, everything unnatural is an enemy. What does that mean? It means that we have an inherent nature. There are certain inherent needs that an individual has, and one of them is to make a contribution, is for self-mastery, is for transcendent purpose, is to understand the purpose of life. And so when you have a situation that aligns with a need, a deeply held need, then things start to become very powerful because the needs are being met. Yeah? So that's one of the reasons why this kind of thing is very, very interesting. It parallels a statement that's made in the Bhagavad Gita, where one warrior, Arjuna, is being told that you should do your duty, do your work, but do it for a higher purpose. Right? And he's being encouraged to endeavor, but not to worry so much about the results. Just do the best endeavor that you can. It's interesting, there's a book called 59 Seconds, and it looks at self-improvement in from different angles, and there was one thing which was said about upbringing in terms of children and young people. It said that young people who are praised by their parents for their endeavor, then they consistently try out their best no matter what the result is. You know? So if we recognize the endeavor, then you breed a whole generation of people who will always do their best. Even if it doesn't turn out right, they'll just keep doing their best because they're attached to doing their best and they've been encouraged to do their best. But when you have a society which praises people for the result, right, then when people don't achieve the result, then that person becomes despondent and demotivated. Because you get what you recognize, interestingly enough. And we all know that the result of our activities is, let me ask you this. When the result is achieved, is it completely dependent on the person who's acting? Right? Like, let's say you want to start a business. Is the success of the business completely dependent on the people who are running that business? Yes or no?
No.
No. There's a whole range of external factors, isn't there? I know some people who started a real successful business idea, then the recession came. If there was no recession, that business idea would have taken off. But even as hard as they tried, they're not the only factor. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that there are 5 factors of activity. So we are just one of those 5 factors. So do you see how it's realistic not to be attached to the result, because that's not in your control anyway. But we can be attached to doing the very best we can in our endeavor, ideally for a higher purpose, for a spiritual purpose. And the children who were raised and praised for their endeavor, those children tended to be the most successful ones. One, because they didn't get held back by the result. Because sometimes things work out, sometimes things don't work out. But if you're attached to doing the best you can, are you more likely to get a good result or less likely? More likely. You see, that's the irony behind it. It's very, very interesting. So many of these things, or much of this research, it parallels what you find in ancient teachings, ancient philosophies, especially in the Eastern teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and so on. It's very, very interesting. And we can take these points and practically apply it. It's one of the things Kunt spoke about in the beginning. We can take this on board. When we're doing projects, we can make sure that we give people opportunity for autonomy, self-mastery, growth, transcendent purpose, right? We can make sure that we encourage each other for the endeavor, irrespective of the result. We can also have that mentality ourselves of, okay, I'll do the best I can. I know I can't control the ultimate result, but I'm going to do the best I can at every stage of my endeavor, and then let's see what happens as a result, right? And we can also, because transcendence also means understanding the deeper spiritual aspects, we can also add that spiritual dimension in our lives, if we choose to, so that we're taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and also in a spiritual way. I wanted to bring us to this. I want to show you these images. So this person, his name is Radha Swami, and I think if you recognize this guy? Yeah? Okay, Barack Obama. Do you recognize him?
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell Brand. So, he's actually a spiritual leader, spiritual teacher, and he's actually interacted with many, many celebrities, famous people, wealthy people around the world. And just because it's such a very clear illustration, what does that kind of, if you look at Barack Obama's face, what's the impression you get from their meeting?
Respect.
Respect, what else?
Kind of curious.
Curious?
He's kind of bowing, which
Yeah.
you don't normally see in society.
Yeah, thankful. There's a lot of respect, sincerity, and reverence, if you notice that, you know? Now, that's something that's also generated by spiritual practice. As people develop themselves spiritually, we spoke about changing all about changing ourselves, you gain access to a new source of power, right? You see, the spiritual is actually more powerful than the material. So if we also develop ourselves spiritually, you also have more ability to deal with the material things without getting brought down by them. You know? So one of the best ways to be grounded, even if you have wealth, is to also be realigning yourself with spiritual values in the association of people who know about these things, who have a higher purpose or principle in life. So they won't judge you or love you more or less because of what you have. Because it's said that the inherent nature of the soul is that it wants to be loved to who they are, not because of what we have, isn't it? Yeah. Would you like someone to love you just because of how much money you've got? No. And the danger also, and I think one group mentioned it earlier, is if we're loved because of what we have, then what happens if that thing leaves us? You see the point? Right? So today everyone likes me because I'm a millionaire. But what if I lose my millions? Will those same people still be around me tomorrow? And it means that my psychology will also be affected because I'll be living my life in conscious or unconscious fear that the thing that's making these people like me will go away and therefore they'll go away. Right? There's a big crisis in male-female relationships right now because it's all about externals. And so everyone's scared. The men's scared that if I don't have the car, the house and the money and this kind of job, then the wife will leave me. And also the same thing from the other side. It may be about the looks or whatever. There was one person who met, Paul McCartney's office is just around the corner here. The Beatles, Paul McCartney. So when he was going through his divorce, you know, because he was divorced and his wife, you know, his ex-wife took millions. I think practically half of his earnings. So he was actually in the square just over there, really depressed one day. And he was just talking, he got talking to someone and he was just talking about the situation he was going through. It's an inherent nature of the soul that we don't want to be loved just because of what we have. And that's why we spoke about the money being, the danger is where it becomes a substitution effect. Where we want it because of something that's not happening deeper within ourselves. And then we live our lives in fear of what will happen if people don't, you know, appreciate that money. Or if someone else comes who's got more money, more wealth, more fame, more of whatever the external thing is. So even to have a very healthy external life is considered, is necessary, and it's built on having a full internal life. So we wanted to end by hearing from this person, sharing a few words about the purpose of life, then we'll take questions, then we'll actually do some kirtan, which is like some spiritual sound meditation practice, and then we'll have questions as well. So we're going to have Radha Swami speak as he's explaining from the from the perspective of Eastern teachings about the purpose of life. Because if we understand that, that helps us to do our internal, or to fulfill ourselves internally. Okay. I'm just going to play this video. Maybe we can turn the lights on.
The fundamental need of every living being is to love and to be loved. Without that, nothing can really satisfy the heart. Objects can satisfy the senses of the body. Various emotional gratifications can satisfy the mind. But the heart is yearning, longing to love and to be loved. In the Brahma Sutra it is said, Ananda Mayopyashat, which means the inherent nature of every living being is we are seeking pleasure. It is something we all have in common. Even the little ant that is crawling on the floor is seeking pleasure in a particle of sugar. The procreation of all living beings is based on that longing for pleasure. But only love can give pleasure to the heart. And child is given a beautiful home, wonderful toys and games, but that child does not feel loved. The child will be insecure, unstable, and unsatisfied. It is our nature. Whether we are black or white or red or yellow in color, whether we're American or Russian or Indian or Pakistani or Palestinian or Israeli, whether we're young or old, rich or poor, whatever our particular designation may be in this world, our inherent need is to express and feel love for someone else and to feel loved by someone else. Why is it that we all have that in common? According to the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is because it is the inherent nature of the soul. The soul is part of God. Nityasita Krishna Prema Satya Kabunai Sravanadi Sudicheti Kuriyayudai. That love of God is dormant within the heart of every living being. But we have forgotten that love. So we're trying to find that experience of pleasure in so many ways in this world. And because it's not really satisfying our need, so much frustration. And due to that frustration, human beings can act in such strange and often dangerous ways to themselves, to others, and to the planet. It's all in the search of love. So the purpose of life is to redirect that propensity to love of the soul back toward God. And when we experience God's unlimited love, and we feel the unlimited love of the soul for God, included within that experience is compassion and love for every living being. That is what everyone is looking for. That is the essence of every religion. And that is the highest purpose of life.
Can you have the lights back on? Okay. So, we hope we gave you some food for thought. So we're discussing today a few different key things. One is about the psychology of money, how it can affect us. We spoke a bit about the mode of passion, how people can get into a kind of cycle of greed because of wealth or the pursuit of wealth. We spoke about how there are higher goals or higher purposes behind people's activity, especially the work that they do. That there can be desire for personal growth, maintenance, wealth, recognition, but there's also transcendent purpose. Yeah? We spoke a little about the dangers of wealth, whereby we even saw that there's such a thing as affluenza, where people are sometimes going to therapists, psychologists, because of the pros and cons that they may be dealing with around wealth. We looked at a few case studies of how wealth has been impacting people in the world, famous people, people that we know. And we also spoke about purpose from a spiritual perspective, how there is also an inherent need, which is both spiritual, which is internal, and which is important, as is the need to take care of the body and the mind. Okay? So if there are full packages there, it can make for a very strong person, very strong friendships, very strong relationships, very strong community, and ultimately a very powerful and strong world. Okay? So maybe actually at this point we'll take questions, I think, and then we'll do some Q&A. Is there any questions about anything that you've seen or heard today that you would like to ask more about? Yes, Nico.
You were talking about spiritual strength.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to know what spiritual strength is.
Sure. So, as one develops their spiritual practice through meditation, through learning about spirituality, through being or interacting with spiritually minded people, you develop what's called spiritual strength, which is the ability to keep one's spiritual focus even when there are different temptations temptations or distractions in the world. Yeah? So one can build their spiritual strength, which allows them to be in the world, but not distracted by the things of the world. It allows them to have, if in some situations, have great wealth, for example, but not to become attached to that great wealth, to see it as something which they are looking after on behalf of the Supreme and something that they can use selflessly for the benefit of the entire world. Yeah? So by spiritual strength, one doesn't get swayed by the material things in the environment, but rather one's able to keep their focus and their integrity and then use the things in the environment for a higher and ultimately for a spiritual purpose. That's spiritual strength. Yes, there are degrees of that. So okay? Yes. Yeah.
Everyone, well, Swami said everyone needs love and everyone needs to give love. That's one purpose we probably all want to have. But then everyone is an individual as well, and everyone has like an individual purpose. So I was wondering if you, maybe someone doesn't know or isn't aware of it, how they can become aware of what their purpose, the true purpose is.
Very good question. Very good question. I'll share something from my own experience. It's like one of the things that can really help you to work out your purpose. There's a few things that I've tried also and found to work. One is that generally being engaged in trying to serve others. See, if I help other people to understand why they're here and what they're meant to do, the reaction is that by doing that for other people, that same thing comes back to me. So if I help other people to clarify what their purpose is, then in doing that, the reaction is I become clearer on my purpose. That's one thing. Second is, like in studying, you will have a teacher. Yeah? And the teacher, because they're more knowledgeable in that particular field, they can tell you, oh, you're good at this area bit you need to work on. So by having the association of different types of relationships, friendships, and also seniors or guides, like even in the outside world, I did a presentation at Shell, and we were talking about networking. And we were saying that all the successful people, they all find mentors in different fields that they want to be successful in. So that principle is actually considered to be a timeless principle. So if I want to understand more about who I am and what I should be doing, I should also have mentors who are very knowledgeable about life, about spirituality, about the self. Because then they will be able to see very clearly, oh, you should be doing this. And in my endeavor to try and help other people and serve other people, it's said that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? So in a similar way, when we're trying our best to help other people to be clear, then it will become clearer and clearer to ourselves, you know? I myself, I was given certain guidance from my own mentors. In this life, you should be focusing on this, doing this. And it's interesting, so many things that they told me, it was also said to me by other people independently of what my mentor said, you know? So I could see more and more he knew, because he could understand and analyze me very easily and could see what I needed to achieve in this lifetime. So it's not difficult. In the right association, these things become very clear. And when you know, it gives you great confidence because you're very clear on what you should be doing. You're not drifting and unsure. You know exactly where you should be going. There was a study which was done by Harvard University in 1976. The students who were graduating that year, they were asked a question. They said, how many of you have a habit of setting yourselves regular achievable goals? That year, 3% of the students answered yes to that question. They have a habit of setting themselves regular achievable goals. 25 years later, they did a follow-up survey of the same group of individuals, and they found that the 3% who said yes to that question were earning more than the other 97% put together. And their conclusion was that in being very clear on what one is meant to be doing, that actually really multiplies the productivity and the success, because at every stage you have a choice to make. You know what choice to make to help you to achieve your goal. But if the goal's unclear, people can drift, and it could be decades before they work out what they're meant to be doing. Yeah. One other thing, for those who are more directly spiritually inclined, prayer. That kind of internal asking can also help to bring about very deep internal answers as to what one is meant to be doing as well. So those are a few things that can be done practically. Thank you, it's a good question. Any other questions or comments? Yes?
In the video, what was his name?
Radhanath Swami.
Yeah, he talks about the need to express.
Yes.
Does that mean that the super soul has a need to express as well, or is it just the simply
the super soul is the super soul is considered to be like our conscience, or the form of divinity that's within us. That's next to us, we're considered to be the soul. So when he's speaking about the need to express, he's talking about us, because the super soul, whatever need it has, it can achieve, no problem. There's nothing that can obstruct the super soul in its purpose. But sometimes we don't express our spiritual nature. So we may express our physical needs, our mental needs, but often in our society, where the repression really is taking place is that our spiritual need is often repressed and kind of distracted.
But does the super soul express itself, or? The
super soul is always expressing itself internally to us, but we have to be attuned to catch the guidance that the super soul is giving. Yes, so the super soul has no barrier to expression, but reception on our part, that's what needs to be worked on. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Yeah. So going a little bit deeper, you talk Kundalata identified through watching the video that happiness is generally gained from serving other people rather than material gain.
It's gained from service.
Yeah.
There's different levels of service, but the more the service is selfless and pure and directed to the ultimate well-being of everyone, the more satisfying it is.
Yeah. My question is that whilst we have service, as in, you know, we might be studying, we might be working, we understand that our eternal service is to kind of serve others. And, you know, that's the key way to happiness.
Mm.
Then how do we execute that in our lives practically?
Okay. There's a few things that can be done. One is something that we're going to practice in a minute, which is a special form of spiritual meditation. We call it kirtan. When we're chanting or singing spiritual sound vibration, because that helps to raise our awareness, helps us to tune in, and helps us to naturally dedicate everything we do to the highest well-being of ourselves and other people. So that's one practice. That can be done in a group, which is what we're going to do soon, but it can also be done individually, and it's called japa. So one way we can do it practically is just by adding that practice of mantra meditation in our daily lives. Another thing we can do is just by attending things like this, because in this association we can strengthen and develop our understanding of our own deeper needs. So this is another practical thing. So in other words, just coming to Launchpad every week is enough to make you more spiritual. Yeah? Just a little bit of a plug there. So that's another thing we can do. If you see here, and we encourage people to have a look through, we have many books which deal with the science of internal need and internal satisfaction. So these books, reading these books can also help us develop that side practically. So these are very practical things. You can take a book, read it. You can do the meditation. You can come and associate and discuss and ask questions amongst people who have a similar kind of aspiration. These are just 3 of the things that we can do practically that can help us to achieve that goal. Is that okay? Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? No? Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're almost done, and we really thank you for taking part and being so, enthusiastic and sharing your ideas. What we're going to do now is what's called kirtan. So this is collective meditation on a special mantra. The mantra is actually here. Do we have it somewhere else? That's the only place? Okay. We'll have to move that here. Let's move that a bit closer. Put it here. And this is what's called the Maha mantras. Maha is a Sanskrit word which means great. Man means mind. Tra means to deliver. So mantra means a sound vibration that helps to release the mind, or to clean the mind, to raise the consciousness. So we'll do this in a cool and response way, with using instruments and really nice voices. We'll have a lead singer, and what will happen is the person who's leading will sing the mantra in a certain melody. This is called a raga, special melody, and then we'll sing the mantra back in that same melody. The trick here is to try and be meditative and attentive in the hearing and in the singing to get the full powerful effect of the mantra. There was a song by En Vogue years ago called Free Your Mind, right? Free your mind and the rest will follow. It's a little bit plugged in. So the point is that by doing this form of meditation, not only is it very nice artistically, because it sounds very beautiful and it's very soothing. But what it does is it starts to release the full potential of our consciousness. It cleans the consciousness and allows us to be attuned into more and more higher aspects of reality. There's much more going on in the world than we know. There's the gross physical world and the gross physical reality, but there are also subtleties to that we can directly perceive and experience if we qualify ourselves accordingly. This is a very powerful way of doing that. So I'd encourage all of you to be in a position where you can be focused. If it's easier for you to close your eyes to meditate on the sound, you're more than welcome to do that, if that's what appeals to you, if that works for you. And we'll do that for a few minutes. Who will lead? You lead? Yep, okay. So Mike will lead. Do you have the instruments?
Yeah.
Okay, and there's cartels here. Okay.
You're okay to play Madanga?
Yep, so Kabi will play. If you pass the Madanga on. Okay, and then Kun will play the cartels. So we encourage you to try and get the most from anything you do, actually. Not just this. This is a very simple thing that helps in that respect. This mantra is a very ancient mantra, which is part of a tradition which is many thousands of years old, and it's considered extremely powerful. So if we just hear the mantra very clearly, it has great power to help us to clean our consciousness, to refresh our minds, and also to perceive more of the internal, more of the subtle, more of the spiritual aspects of ourselves, of other people, and ultimately of the Supreme Person also. Yeah. So please, it's an experiment that you can try and see for yourself the benefits. Yeah. Okay. So then, Michael, if you take it away. One thing. How long will you do the mantra for? What's good? 10 to 15. Okay. See how you do. That's fine.
Just get everyone sitting comfortably.
Yes. And preferably away from the leaning your back on the walls as well.
So maybe we just start with something to just center everyone. If everyone can just take a nice deep breath in. Hold it for 3 counts. Breathe out again. Slowly. One more time, breathe in. Hold it for 3 counts, let it fill your lungs. And out again slowly. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama,
Good. Okay, so I wanted to say thank you to all of you for coming and for making a very interesting session, very interactive session. So Launchpad has been going on for over 2 years now, and we meet every Saturday around this time. And you're all more than welcome to come. It'd be great to see you again, to serve you again. We always have this format, something to eat, a little time to relax, get to know each other, then an interactive session, and also some kirtan at the end as well. Okay, so I think as B said before, she'll have the guest book. If everyone, no obligation, but it'd be nice if you just sign, leave a little message about how you found the session, and at the back also to leave your contact details, and we can put you on our guest list, on our email list, and let you know of future events. Sometimes, most of the time we're here, we have events here, but on occasion we've been to different corporate companies, and you will come and we do an event at Ernst & Young or UBS, and we may even do something at some other places in the future as well. And we also had some outings. Please check our website. We have at the launchpad.com. We have at least the next series of different presentations. The posters are on there, and there'll be different tweets. You can subscribe. We'll send out different bits of information. And of course, if there's anything we can do to improve the session, to make it better for you, more interesting, more varied, or more effective to meet your needs, feel free to speak to myself or Kundalata, Michael or B at the back there, and just kind of share your thoughts, ideas, suggestions, whatever we can to facilitate. All of you will do our best. So thank you very much for coming. It was great to have your association, and we really look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Please sign the guest book before you go.
Oh, yeah, and a group shot.
Would be good as well.